Empire.
Welcome to Inside the Cap. I'm your host, Joel Corey. You can find me on Twitter at CoreyJoel, CorryJoel, and also read my regular CBSSports.com column, Agent's Take on NFL contract and salary cap matters. This week we're going to look at a couple of the surprising transactions of the past few days, and we're going to start off with the Cowboys releasing Jaylon Smith. Smith was a 2016 second-round pick after a gruesome knee injury in the Fiesta Bowl. Was probably going to be a top 10 pick had he not suffered the injury. Cowboys nonetheless took him in the second round and did a contract extension with him in August 2019. Because of the knee injury, he spent his rookie year on the non-football illness injury list. And when you spend a whole season on that list, you don't get a year's service for free agency. So when this extension was done in 2019, had he played out his contract, he would have been a restricted free agent. So the Cowboys, in essence, gave him an extension running through the 2024 season, the restricted year, and the 5 unrestricted years. He had a Pro Bowl caliber year in 2018, and the 5 unrestricted years at the time were sort of valued at $12.8 million per year, $64 million over 5 years, with the assumption being that they were going to give him a first-round tender. Sometimes the best deal you make is the one you don't make, because the Cowboys weren't getting much of a return on his investment when they cut Smith in the middle of the week. His play time had started to dwindle this year. He played basically 99% of the plays last year, with the addition of Michael Parsons, the 12th overall pick, Keanu Neal coming over from the Falcons, making the conversion from safety to linebacker to play under new defensive coordinator Dan Quinn, the former Falcons head coach. Smith's play time through the first 4 games was 56%. Dallas had wanted him to waive his injury guarantee for 2022. His 2022 salaries of $9.2 million was guaranteed for injury, so we're going to become fully guaranteed on the 5th day of the league year. With Neal coming back from the COVID list, Parsons, who was filling it at defensive end, now moving back to linebacker. You also have Leighton Vander Esch still in the mix, and 4th-round pick Jabril Cox, that Jaylon Smith was expendable. So the Cowboys decided to cut Smith. And in doing so, since the $7.2 million salary for this year is already fully guaranteed, they don't save any cap room. Cap number $9.8 million, so they have $9.8 million in what's called dead money, which is a salary cap charge for a player no longer on the roster. Now, next year, they're going to save $5 million in cap room because there's $2.6 million in proration, so bonus proration associated with 2022 from the $5 million signing bonus, and there's an $8 million option bonus in 2020, which they converted into signing bonus instead of exercising the option. Still picked up the last year, but just changed the classification of the money, still prorated, but was going to have an $11.8 million cap number in 2022. Now there's going to be $6.8 million of dead money from the remaining bonus proration. The signing bonus is running through 2023. The option bonus proration is running through 2024. So it'll be a $6.8 million cap hit next year. Now, in this situation, as I just said, sometimes the best deal you make is the one you don't make. So the Cowboys really jumped the gun on this contract with Jaylon Smith. Now, the reason I say that is in 2019, the final year of his rookie contract, he was scheduled to make $1,335,678. So had they not done the deal and then given him a restricted free agent tender in 2020, they could have walked away this year in 2021 and had no cap consequences for Jaylon Smith, and used the $9.8 million to go out and get a cornerback, which was probably what they were going to pick if the Carolina Panthers and the Denver Broncos hadn't taken J.C. Horn and Patrick Surtain II at number 8 and number 9, or fill in other needs of the team. But anyway, let's say they still give him the first round tender. His play started declining in 2019. He got the Pro Bowl berth in 2019 that he should have gotten in 2018, but play started really declining. So let's say in 2020 was probably his worst year as a pro. Let's say that they let him play it out and gave him the first round tender. The first round tender in 2020 was $4.641 million. So you could have had Jaylon Smith for the 2 years for $5,976,678. In actuality, they ended up paying Jaylon Smith, because of how they restructured the contract with the extension, $5,835,678 in 2019, $13.17 million in 2020, and they're paying him $7.2 million this year because the contract year is fully guaranteed. Over 3 years, 19 through 21, the Cowboys are paying Jaylon Smith $26,206,678 instead of paying him $5,976,678. So they paid him $20.23 million more than had they let this thing play out, then exercise their rights for the tender in 2020, since he was only going to have 3 years of service for free agency when his rookie contract expired, instead of 4 because of the first year on the non-football injury list. So this is an example of being premature, jumping the gun a little early in terms of doing a contract extension. Yes, I know that teams are usually proactive with their core players, but you got to pick the right player. And the Cowboys bet on the wrong horse in the case of Jaylon Smith. Now, he's subsequently signed with the Packers, and since the guarantee has an offset, he signed for league minimum for the remaining 14 weeks of the season. So that's for $990,000 is what the contract will say, but he's only going to make $770,000 for the rest of the year. So the Cowboys are getting an offset of that. So the total net amount more than they're going to pay will be $19.46 million. Then they had they just let things play out naturally with Jaylon Smith. And had they done that, who knows what they would have done to Leighton Vander Esch's fifth-year option, which they declined for $9.145 million. We'll see if Vander Esch gets more playing time over the next few weeks, particularly with Neal coming back from the COVID list. But his play time had also dwindled. It had been less than Smith's. And the thing with Vander Esch is he's been injured most of the time. That kind of dates back to his days at Boise State. Had a great rookie year, made the all-rookie team, was a Pro Bowl alternate, but he's had a hard time staying on the field since then. His play time was 56.1%, whereas Smith's was 56.1%. So this is a pivotal year. It's already a pivotal year for Leighton Vander Esch, but we'll see where he fits in the whole scheme of things, because the way things were working out, initially it seemed like Parsons, who's going to be a defensive rookie of the year candidate, if he keeps this up, may actually win the award, and Keanu Neal were going to be the two linebackers getting the bulk of the playing time. So Vander Esch may still be the odd man out as the third linebacker. So we'll see how that goes. Jaylon Smith gets to go to the Packers, reunites with Matt LaFleur, who was on the staff at Notre Dame when he was there in college, the Packers head coach. So we'll see if he can resurrect his career. Now, the other move, which came as a surprise, was Stephon Gilmore. The Patriots announced on Wednesday morning that they were going to release Gilmore. And sometimes what a team will do, particularly for a guy who isn't subject to waivers, is announce that they're going to release him early in the day to try to flush out anyone who might be interested in a trade, because once his contract was terminated, he was going to be free to sign with whomever he wanted to, and there'd be competition. And given Gilmore, Pro Bowler last year, Defensive Player of the Year 2 years ago, smart move by the Patriots to flush out the Panthers, who gave up a 2023 sixth-round pick. And the way the compensatory pick rules were going to work, given he has 10 years of service for free agency or accrued seasons, the most you're going to get in compensation, New England, would be a 2023 fifth-round pick. Now, this whole situation with Gilmore, because really it was a dispute over money that was the problem more than anything else, not ability, that it reminded me of what I call the Patriot way. Some people say the Patriot way is their whole do your job mantra, but to me, it's Bill Belichick has got a history of getting rid of a player a year too early, whether it's because of performance, age, salary, and this one is salary. And they've made midseason trades before. Randy Moss comes to mind, that he was complaining about his contract, and I think that was, 2011 maybe, that they traded him away. So Gilmore in 2019, after he won Defensive Player of the Year, thought he was underpaid. So they addressed his contract, raised his base salary by $2.5 million, added $2.5 million of per game roster bonuses, active roster bonuses to his contract, to his 2020 compensation. Gave him a $2 million incentive for winning Defensive Player of the Year, which is considered likely to be earned. Lowered his 2021 base salary from $11.5 million to $7 million in the process. Added a roster bonus of $411,765 contingent on a 17th game being played. And the reason that was put in, because if you do an alteration to a contract, which is more than just a simple cosmetic restructure, that you weren't going to be eligible for the 17th game check. Players who already had contracts prior to the CBA getting ratified in March 2020 were eligible to get. So this was to keep him from being in a worse position than if they had done nothing to his contract. And the $500,000 of game day active roster bonuses from his 2021 contract remained. So there was no way that Gilmore was ever going to play this season for the reduced compensation, where he could have maxed out at $7,911,765 because he felt he was underpaid. He's really not there because the Patriots and Gilmore never could agree on what was considered appropriate compensation. He wanted an extension. I didn't think that they were going to give him an extension because of their Patriot Way mantra, particularly since the extension years would carry into ages beginning at 32 through maybe 34, 35. And the history of cornerbacks going to the Pro Bowl, playing at a high level, those ages isn't pretty. In recent years, only two Pro Bowlers, Champ Bailey and Charles Woodson. So it's really going to be how are we going to adjust this year's contract. And complicating matters was that Gilmore had the partially torn quad last year, which required surgery. So, and when you have an injury like that, you can kind of milk it and give yourselves really a legitimate hold in, since they put him on the physically unable to perform list. And at the roster cut down, they moved him from active PUP to reserve PUP. And when you do that, put someone on reserve PUP, they're out the first 6 weeks of the season. So Gilmore can't play until week 7. So that was kind of complicating matters. And then it came out that the Patriots were willing to adjust his contract prior to the trade. Now, the way the Patriots have adjusted contracts in the past, it was going to be tough for, I don't know what they were talking about, but if it was anything like what happened with Rob Gronkowski's incentives in the second year, or Tom Brady's incentives that were added 1 year, those were going to be hard thresholds for Gilmore to earn. So I can understand if it's along those lines why you couldn't get anything done. Because for Brady in 2018, they added $5 million of incentives in the contract in the free season. There were a laundry list of milestones he had to get for being in the top 5 of various statistical categories where he'd earn $1 million for each of the first 5. He didn't earn any of them. And in that second year in 2018, when they stuck incentives in Rob Gronkowski's contract, went for a Band-Aid approach. To make him not likely to be earned, he had to do more than what he did in 2017. Missed 3 games because of injuries. He got nothing. So Patriots weren't going to make it a give me where, since Gilmore had 1 interception last year, had him start at 2 most likely. So I can see why he didn't get anything done. So they put out the word he was going to get released. Carolina Panthers win now mode after a 3-1 start. It's a place where Gilmore may have signed anyway if released, because he's from Rock Hill, South Carolina. This was his hometown, basically favorite team growing up. So in a sense, he gets to go back home. Patriots now have $10,085,765 of dead money. Gilmore had the largest cap number for a cornerback this year at $16,265,503. Their net savings on the cap is $6,179,738. That is what Carolina takes on for Gilmore. And they're one of the teams which had surplus cap room. Had about $19 million of cap room before the transactions. They could easily accommodate Gilmore. And that's going to consist of the remaining portion of his base salary, partially for Gilmore. That he's got $5,444,444 of base salary. They're taking on the roster bonus for the 17th game that I mentioned for $411,765. And also the per game active roster bonuses. There's a cap value because it's based on how many games you played last year, $323,529. So that's where that total amount comes from. For someone who wanted a new contract, occasionally when you get a change of scenery, you are happy just with the change of scenery and not forcing the new contract. And we've seen a couple of examples in the past couple of years. Jamal Adams wanted a contract from the Jets when he got traded to Seattle at the roster cut down in 2020, and right around that time, or I should say training camp, not the roster cut down. He didn't need a new contract and played out the 4th year of his contract, the first year in Seattle. Jalen Ramsey, same thing, was disgruntled in Jacksonville in 2019, trade shortly before the trading deadline, about a week before the trading deadline. Ramsey didn't need a new deal to go to the Rams. Played it out, got a new deal right before the start of the 2020 regular season. So it's the same thing with Gilmore, but except he's in a contract year, so he's willing to ride it out and play for the reduced compensation, which was not something he was willing to do in New England. Now, plays really well once he gets back, and the first game he could play would be on October 24th against the Giants. Then we'll see if he has a long-term home in Carolina. Same thing. I would be hesitant about paying him what he reportedly wants, like $15 million per year or more, for the ages on a go-forward basis. And that would roughly be approximately what the Panthers weren't willing to pay James Bradbury off of his rookie contract, who went to the Giants to reunite with Dave Gettleman, who drafted him, who's now the Giants GM. So Jaylon Smith trying to resurrect his career in Green Bay after being released by the Cowboys. Should get every opportunity to play in Green Bay. And Stephon Gilmore, once he is off the physically unable to perform list, we'll see if he can play at the same Pro Bowl caliber level that he did last year, or potentially at the level which got him to be Defensive Player of the Year in 2019. But those were 2 surprise transactions last week that nobody really saw coming. That's going to be this week's Inside the Cap. Thank you guys for listening. Don't forget, you can find me on Twitter at Corey Joel. That is CORRYJOEL. And also check out my CBSSports.com column, Agents Take. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you back here next time. Goodbye.